Sairam, I just started the recording before I forget it. But Sairam, everyone, good evening. Those who are joining from India, I think most of us are from India. So yes, welcome back. So today Pratibha aunty won't be able to join us. She's in Puttaparthi. Hopefully, at some point, she's able to log in and at least listen in. Sure. Yeah, I think getting that a message on the chat saying you'll not be able to attend. Yeah, please, whatever you need to, the recording will be available, so we'll share it in the when we're able to go through it. But thanks. All right. So, Hagi, so we were thinking of starting up a new topic today. I think we're almost into the new year, and we thought we have covered a lot of topics. हमने Q&A वगैरह भी कर लिया, and then a lot of times we spoke about many different varieties, but ultimately everything links back to love. And what we were thinking is let's just start taking love as a topic and explore various aspects around it. Now, as I was telling Aarti aunty in the beginning, love can be like very broad, or we can keep
I
talking.
can't hear you, Ashu.
Oh, is it?
पता नहीं मेरे कंप्यूटर में कुछ है कि लैपटॉप में should
I can hear Ashu clearly.
Okay.
Everyone can hear him.
Yes,
Yeah, we can.
I'll join from my phone also then.
Okay. Let me also do one thing, Siddharth. I'll just make you co-host as well in case we have to manage a bit of that. Okay. Yeah. So I was saying that so love as a topic, and we can keep talking. We'll explore different aspects about it, and we can. But we thought initially today we can like put some structure around it, and we have a couple of ways to approach the topic which Siddharth will introduce. But we are thinking of taking this not just today. Based on how it goes, obviously we'll keep it more flexible. Kitna time चाहिए we are not reaching a deadline or something, so we can take it at our own pace. But we can mix it up, a session in between wherein we have somebody giving another perspective, probably from a study circle group or somebody who's not in a study circle group. So we can do that. We can have in between we can have some experiences being shared by people, because love is a topic wherein we all have experienced love from Swami, and we have loved a lot of people in the true sense, so we can share those experiences as well. So we'll try and mix it up over the next few sessions, but we wanted to start off with some message from Swami about this topic, and Siddharth has kindly again agreed to take the lead on that, so he will be sharing his initial thoughts. But yeah, before I reach out to Siddharth to take it over, any thoughts from you all around how we can address this topic better, or any preferences, any suggestions there? Because love is a topic, I think, wherein we all can contribute in a very nice manner. I'll give it 10 more seconds. Otherwise, Siddharth, you can take it off from there.
Since it's love, you cannot logically put it in. You cannot put it logically in any step. It will only come from the heart.
Perfect. That is the best suggestion. It will come from the heart, and we are all hoping that Swami is inspiring us from the heart to speak his words. But all right, so having said that, then Siddharth, why don't you take it over?
Sure. So I think it's before we begin the topic, let's offer our loving salutations to our beloved Swami, and let's pray together that he guides us in this all important topic on love, and let's hear his message through each one of us. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
So a lot of us thought about it before we took up this topic, and in fact this is the all important topic. If we get this right, we have got everything right, because as Swami also says that love is everything. Love is the subtlest, and that is the ultimate connection that we have with him or with any divine master. And practically it all comes down to that same 4-letter word of love. And all the techniques, all the faith, prayer, all that subsumes into this topic called love. because ultimately it comes down to one single thing, and how to kind of develop that love for God. So, that is something which we touched very briefly on the previous session during the Q&A. But today, in this topic, this may not conclude today. We will have to see how it goes. As Ashutosh said, it may go for maybe 2 sessions, 3 sessions. We'll not hurry up. We will take it one step at a time till we have grasped the entire idea of love. So what we have done, in fact, how do we kind of address this concept of love? Is there are broadly 4 or 5 areas as always. The first area that we thought is, what's the difference between love and like? Let's get that clarity upfront before we get into deeper into what love is. And then after that, we have the next aspect that we'll cover is what is love altogether. Okay, what does love mean? After that, we move to the next part. Why are we always in search for love? Okay, and then the next section that we will look at is where can we find the true love? Followed by where are we searching for, that true love, and where we are probably, we need to rectify ourselves. And then finally, falling in love with God and how it can happen. That entire piece is there. And obviously we'll conclude with some aspect of the role of Guru into the entire scheme of what love is all about. So that's the broad idea. We can, add, delete, modify. If anybody wants to suggest any better way to do this, we can definitely. Any suggestions before we get into details?
No.
Okay. So since we have got okay from everyone, let's move ahead. The first aspect that we should cover is that what is the difference between love and like? Anybody? As always, we'll throw it open every aspect first to everybody, collect our thoughts together, and then conclude on that particular aspect. So what is the difference between love and like?
Love is something you can't do without. And like is something which you like, but you could do without it. But love is something which is something which you miss very badly, and it brings you complete confidence, and it brings you complete happiness at that time. That's love.
Okay. Well said. Anybody?
Like I feel is in the mind and love is in the heart. It comes from the heart. Like comes from the mind.
Okay. So you have hit the nail on the head. What else? How else can we look at difference between love and like?
I mean, when you are in one's mind always seems to go back to his loved moments or her loved moments. It doesn't go back to liked moments. Something which a human being misses is being loved, love of parents, love of childhood. That is something which one never forgets. That goes right through into you, not just superficial.
Okay. So more or
Like
less,
is
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
like is it is affection, it is warmth, and love is probably more all-consuming. It's deeper. It subsumes your entire body, and it's in your heart, and so the mind also kind of functions in accordance with the heart, what the heart is saying. So the directions come from the heart.
Okay. The love is much bigger than like, in short.
I think the degree, one is affection and the other is deeper. It's a much deeper emotion. So yeah.
Okay, that's an important part, because way back in one of the sessions, we had segregated emotion and feelings. So emotions, comes from the head. Feelings are from the heart. Feelings are more deeper. So maybe, as just to add to your point, we can say like is an emotion which comes from the head. Love is a feeling which comes from the heart. Okay. Monira aunty.
Right.
Monira aunty actually gave an entire talk on this topic, so that's why I'm picking her. We cannot hear you.
You're muted yourself, auntie.
Auntie saying she doesn't have something to add, I think. Through her actions, she's saying that. Sure.
Okay.
Chirag,
Anybody else before we close? Yeah. Sorry, Ashutosh.
I was just saying, if there is obviously that example of Swami's description of liking and loving him. If you're planning to cover it right now or later, we can bring that up right now. I can share that. That's what Swami said. Otherwise, if you're already planning on covering it later, I can wait.
No, we can cover right away. And if required, we can refer it to in the subsequent section.
Sure, done. So yeah, there's that very interesting experience, and Swami has. We're talking about love and like in general feelings, right? But we always feel to Swami, so we definitely love, right? We don't like Swami. Yeah, we like Swami, but we also love Swami. That's probably the only relationship we feel that is love. And students have been so close to Swami, so we feel like रोज सुबह शाम देखते हुए तो Swami को students तो love करते ही होंगे. So there is this story about one Swami was in Vrindavan in Trai, sitting with students, and Swami said, "Do you all love me or do you all like me?" And Swami said, "So Swami, we love you." Students obviously said, and Swami then broke everybody's heart and said, "No, you all like me." And then Swami went on to describe the difference. And Swami said, and he gave an example which probably, hit even more harder to a lot of students. He said, so a lot of people have dogs. And when you have a dog, you play with it, you take care of all its needs, you enjoy your time, you're so happy with it. And, it gives you back the love. But when the dog goes astray and just runs around here and there, do you follow the dog everywhere? You don't follow the dog everywhere. And so Swami said, if you love Swami, you should follow what Swami says and live that life of Swami's message. He said that's when the real love is, because and it all kind of comes together. I think what you've discussed is it's that feeling when you love somebody and they are saying something that you have to follow and it's going to be good for you, you do that. And otherwise it is conditional, right? It's all attached to a condition wherein you are liking something because it smells good, because it feels good or whatever. But in love, it is not conditional. You have loved somebody, whatever they say, you have complete faith in them, and that's how it goes. I think Swami has also said that if from faith comes love, and then from love, and then he's also said in order to have complete love and fill your day with love, you must you must. So he said for the sadhana, right? So for love to become a sadhana, you have to do it every time, all the time, and not in parts. So not when it's convenient to you, but every time, and then live that throughout. So I think that example of Swami of how it how liking a dog versus loving Swami, it kind of sticks, and that is always kind of stuck in my mind. So that's one way I think you can think about it.
No, I think very, very beautifully mentioned. Before anybody speaks, I think somebody wanted to speak.
Okay.
Or let anybody else want to contribute before I come back to what Ashutosh said.
Yeah, I may refer to a story by Swami Rama.
Mm-hmm.
Swami Rama, his famous book "Living with the Himalayan Masters." Now, Swami Rama was another great enlightened soul, and he always had a fear of snakes. And one day his guru says, reads his mind, because his guru is a very enlightened person. And he never revealed, of course, his guru never let him reveal who he was. He says that tomorrow I'll help you free yourself from the fear of snakes. So he says, oh, fantastic. And Swami Rama says, okay, fantastic. So he gets up at 4 in the morning. They are in the jungle. They are meditating and they are praying. So he gets up at 4, takes his bath, starts collecting dry wood because he wants to light fire by 4:30. And his guru is going to give him the mantra. Finally, he's going to find that mantra, how he can relieve himself from the fear of snakes. Now, while he's collecting these dry shrubs and twigs and all for burning, he suddenly realizes he's caught a snake in his hands, and he freezes. He freezes, and he says, I froze completely out of fear that I'm holding a snake. Now his guru, who's a supreme person, from far off, without saying, he shouts, oh, looks like you've got a snake in your hands. He says, yes. So he says, quickly tell me the mantra so I can free myself of the fear of snakes. So he says, there is no mantra, my child. I never said I'm going to give you a mantra. He said, no, you did. He said, no. I said, I'll free you of the fear of snakes. I didn't say I'm going to give you a mantra for the fear of snakes. So he says, okay, quickly tell me what have I to do. He says, first of all, look at the snake. It's a very clean creature. It sheds off its skin. It's one of the cleanest creatures on planet. It sheds off its skin every few months or whatever, once a year or twice a year, and keeps itself very clean. He says, please stop that. I cannot think of this. So he says, no, with all the training which I have given you and whatever I have trained you, you must muster love for the snake. Now this argument is going on while he is holding the snake in his hands. So he says, quickly tell me what to do. He says, no. He says, there is no other way. He's saying, you have to feel love for the snake. He says, how can I feel love for the snake whom I'm afraid of, whom I hate, whom I despise? And I know it's going to only harm me and bite me, and look at it, it's so ugly, so frightful. So he says, no, you must do whatever you can. And with all your concentration, whatever I have taught you, start loving the snake. So Swami Rama gives it an effort and with full concentration, because he realizes his life depends on it. So he listens to his guru and he starts thinking positively, very positively about the snake, that how good it is, how clean it is, how nice it is. He actually starts feeling that through his whole body. And the moment he starts doing that, the snake slips off and goes away. And he learns from that lesson that, I mean, it's a big learning curve, that he kind of learns that, you know, if you muster full love and faith, even in the worst of the person or the worst of the thing, you can conquer by love. And that was an example which he learns. Of course, he then is tested further in life when he is given, when he says that episode didn't end it all. He says, my guru further tested me. One day I was out alone, and he says, I went to a temple to stay. There was no place to stay in those days. There used to be some kutia behind. There used to go and stay in a temple. So one old lady was there. Somehow he felt that she doesn't like him, and she said, you can stay in this kutia over here or a temple over here, and I'll see you in the morning. When he sleeps in the night, he realizes that the temple is full of holes. He doesn't know why. And in the night, when he's meditating, he realizes there are snakes in it. It's a temple of snakes. And he's fully, he says, snakes were going above me, into my, around me, around my neck, through my dress, through everything. And he's saying, I had decided that whatever my guru taught me, I will practice it tonight. And even if it means if I have to give up my life, I will give up. But I will practice what my guru says. He says, but full night, I could not meditate on love, but I could meditate on nothing else except snakes. I could not think of anything else. And he then kind of musters again full faith in his guru's word and says, no, love will protect me, and love will, and he brings in that courage and that concentration and that feeling from the heart, and he survives the night. Of course, the lady is very disappointed to see him alive. Swami Rama also was found, he had become the Shankaracharya of India, and there was an article on him in the newspaper in 1940s. A photo had also come in the paper that he was meditating between the crocodiles, and he used to regularly go there, sit between them and pray. And he says the secret was what my guru had taught me, how to love everything in life. So that was an example of how Swami Rama showed in practice that love could conquer almost, not conquer, almost conquer everything, every fear and every danger in life.
Very beautiful.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Kabir, for sharing that. That Swami himself says that many times that, love is overarching of everything. And that's why we began the session saying that this is the ultimate. If we get this right, we've got everything. If we don't get this right, how many ever we techniques and gymnastics we do, it will still remain, because the final padav jo bolte hai na, the final padav is love. In fact, if you get it right in the beginning, then you already reached, most of it. But all the gopikas, did the same thing. They were not the people in the Vrindavan who, kind of meditate for hours together or try to open their chakras and, try to cleanse their aura. Nothing of that. They simply loved Krishna, and that's about it. It all started and ended there. So it's the fastest way, as Swami also says, to reach, divinity. And, just to add to the earlier point what Ashutosh said, I came across a very interesting statement in another satsang, not connected to Swami, but another satsang. And the main person who was taking the satsang actually asked this question and made a very interesting statement, and that hit me very badly. And I thought, let me share this today. Say in our case, Swami, okay, any divine masters, in our case is Swami. Do we really love Swami, as what Ashutosh said about, that Swami's experience? The problem is in Hindi, that other person was talking in Hindi and he said, हम लोग भगवान को मानते हैं लेकिन जानते नहीं. This is the exact statement he made. It's a very deep thought. भगवान को हम लोग मानते हैं लेकिन जानते नहीं. So all of us, we probably, respect Swami, but we don't know who is he. जानते नहीं. Once you start knowing God, everything else will fall apart. And that's an ultimate, obviously we'll reach that destination, how to go about it. There are several steps to it. But, that immediately clicked, when Swami mentioned in that interview, with boys, and with what Ashutosh mentioned about love and like, because we all like, and like, as all, all of us discussed, it's conditional. It comes from the head. It changes based on circumstances, whereas love is eternal, true love. Okay. If we like a person, now coming down to very gross level, if you like a person, then it is still conditional. We call it love. Most of the time we intersperse love and like. We say that we love that person, but it's conditional. Because moment conditions change, moment anything changes, immediately the liking goes down. Okay, the love doesn't happen. Love remains eternal, love remains stable, and love gives, whereas like also takes back something. So there's give and take business in like, whereas love just gives and doesn't take anything in return.
Yeah. In fact, Siddharth, I mean, on the same point, to re-emphasize this, right? There's a very interesting anecdote, and the closer you are to divinity, we think it may come naturally, but it becomes actually that much more difficult. So there is a story of Gautam Buddha and Ananda. I don't know how many of us know that, but Ananda was his cousin, if I'm not wrong, right? And he used to admire Buddha. I think Buddha was his younger brother. So what happened is Buddha was obviously enlightened, and he had a lot of people who were following him. He had initiated a lot of people. So Ananda thought that, why don't I also benefit out of this? And he went to Gautam Buddha and he said, I will be initiated by you, but I have 3 conditions. So he said, the first is that I will always be close to you. And, there'll be no secret. You can't meet anybody in secret. And the second condition was that I will always sleep with you in the same room. So that was the second condition. And I'm forgetting the third condition, but I think it was, again, something which basically said that you are exclusively mine. And and you know, and you're there, but I'll get preferential treatment kind of a thing. And so Buddha said, okay, it's fine. And he initiated Ananda. And Ananda was always beside him. That's why any story you see, in fact, we had done a drama in Parthi once, and there was the last scene of Buddha's life before he leaves the body. And Mara, who's this, you know, the Satan in Buddha's life, actually. So we did that scene, and even then Ananda was around there, and he goes back. So he was very close. So what happened then is, so continuing with this Ananda story, so it happened, and then Ananda was with Buddha all the time, and there were, you know, hundreds and thousands of monks around him. And then one fine day, Buddha said, tomorrow I'm going to leave a mortal coil, call all the monks. So all the monks assembled, 1,000 monks assembled there. And then all the monks were pretty stable. Ananda was in tears, and Ananda was crying, and he was very emotional, and he was an emotional wreck, is I think what they said. And at that time, when he was speaking to Buddha, Buddha told him that, and he said, why am I like this, and why is nobody else feeling it? You know, so one person seeing from the outside may feel he's the only person who cared about Buddha, and everybody else did not. But it was basically that the others were all enlightened and they were initiated by Buddha, whereas Ananda was still stuck. And this is exactly what Buddha said, that I did exactly what you told me to do all these years, you know, and you were bound, and your love for me was conditional. It was only if I followed these conditions. But hopefully after my death, now you will get initiated. And actually it happened like that, where, you know, the day after Buddha left, that whole night he was you know, a wreck. And then he thought about it, and he ultimately realized what he had missed all these years. So again, to the same point that we are talking about with respect to love being conditional. And I think as long as we put conditions, even in love with God, and even if you're very close to him, and we say, Swami, I will love you only if, you know, I get an interview, we have those things, and I will do this and that, and, you know, I want to speak to you, or if you come in my dream, if you guide me, if you don't guide me. So I think as long as those conditions are there, yeah, we continue to just like him, and it's not actually love.
And there's a difference between love and attachment, which we confuse normally. Attachment is like a selfish thing almost. Love is selfless.
Absolutely. In fact, that is where if you see what's happening today, all of us, I'm not saying each one of us, I'm generalizing this. You know, most of us, we happen to like Swami, okay, like divinity. But what happens is, moment the divinity, the divine, you know, human body, which the divinity had taken up, is gone away, what's happening, the like is making us conditional and moving to other bodies which are around, which are, you know, claiming to be similar or likely to be. Okay, and that's not the topic of discussion, but I'm only saying that like is conditional. It's a very deep, you know, introspection we need to do in terms of how much we really love Swami, really love any master or any divinity whom we are very close to, you know, in our hearts. Otherwise we'll end up kind of oscillating from one person to another, because the likes will always make us shift. And the moment, as Usha aunty said about attachment, the attachment, if the person is behaving as per what my likes and dislikes are, I will continue to be with that person. Moment my you know, the way he or she behaves differently than what I want him to do, I will shift my loyalties to somebody else. And that's why like is very conditional, very, you know, based on circumstances which favors us. Love is far more deeper, far more divine, far more true, far more loyal, in fact. And it's irrespective of conditions, and no attachment, as you rightly said. Unfortunately, what happens in today's world, we end up interspersing or mixing these two words of love and like, and that's where all the problem comes in. So practically what we see in the world today is more of a like, or rather it's actually a like, an attraction, a distraction, attachment, than the love. And that's why we thought this particular question of difference of love and like has to be taken up upfront before we get deeper into love. I think all of us look at our respective lives, isn't it? Our life, our relatives, associates, friends, what we see in the world is predominantly a like.
Yeah.
You don't see love anywhere, to be honest. Love can only be with divinity. We say we love each other. In fact, you know, one very important thing is, Swami himself said there is no selfless love in the world. The only one which comes very close to that selfless love is mother and child. but still there is an iota of selfishness involved there. So then the next question came is how can a mother be selfish? So Swami actually gives an analogy very beautifully, saying that the same mother, can that mother love the same way neighbor's child as she loves her own child? If it is yes, it's pure love. If it is not, if there is an iota of difference in that, then there is an iota of selfishness in that love also. But that's the closest to the divine love which is there, which we can see visibly in the world.
And
So between-
mothers too have kind of conditional love also, even for their own children also.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Between the two siblings, there will still be comparison, there will still be conditions. So, but that is closest. It's not absolute pure love, but it is far better than the other types of so-called love that we see in the world.
definitely.
Great.
Yep.
So we'll move to the, yeah.
The only thing I would
Yeah, I
add.
just have one query. This is Sujata here. My thing is, one thing is to expect things in love that becomes like you just explained. If you are selfish and you desire to get something out of love, it is not love, it is like. And the other question, the other aspect of it, where you have to demonstrate, that is also not love, no? Where you have to buy things. But to give you a very simple example, even when we were setting up our homes and all that stuff, we were newly married and all that, it used to happen that some years you wouldn't have the money to buy your wife, or I wouldn't get a great Diwali gift. Try doing that today. All hell will break loose. So that is also not love, correct? When you have to demonstrate every now and then.
No, then if you have to demonstrate your love, then it is born out of insecurity. You are worried whether सामने वाला इंसान कैसे सोचेगा. Let me make my presence felt that I do care for you. I don't know what context you're speaking, but if not just gift, anywhere, if you have to keep on demonstrating your love.
If you have to show somebody that you love them by buying them gifts or regularly informing them of the same, then that is also not love. That is also just like, correct?
Absolutely.
Yep. It is the same point, right? So that you're talking about condition. It's a condition. You're saying you give me a gift, you demonstrate, and then you will show that you love me. No, it's again just like, I think love, there is no condition. It's the unconditional love that we talk about, I think, is the love. Everything else, the conditional love, just becomes the like.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So let's make this very clear for all of us, that whatever that we see in the world, it's predominantly, I can say, maybe selfish love, just to ensure that there is a love word used in that, but in other words, it's a like.
Mhm.
It's conditional, because that's why like is a far more better way to explain than love. If you want to keep love as a word very pure and divine, then everything else is like in the world. I like things, I like people, I like as far as they respect me, they behave as per my norms, they behave as per my liking. The moment if somebody behaves in a very different way, which I am uncomfortable, my liking will reduce. And that's why human love is basically, what we call as love is human like. So true love can only be with divine. Okay, which is where, if I go back to what Kabir said about the true love, which is for all beings. There's no condition. You just love for love. So you give yourself in that love, where nothing remains. You just give, and everything melts in love. If you see, that's why Swami says there's only one religion of love, because every difference, the so-called differences in the world today, because of religion, everything disappears. It just melts away.
Right.
Isn't it? Yeah.
The thing I'd say, so that is just to make this even clearer, because I know we said that the only love is with God and everything else in the world is not love. I think this is only true as long as we are not able to see the divinity in everything in the world. So as long as we see divinity in a friend, in a company, in an animal, like we just spoke a little while earlier, I think then it is love. So it is not that कि दुनिया को छोड़ो, अपने आप में रहो, भगवान से connect करो, because बाकी सब love नहीं है. I think you have to strive to do that and see love in see the divine in everybody, and then that is just true love. Just wanted to highlight that aspect. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that concept, because it's not that we have to be indifferent to the world and other people, that, you know, ये सब दुनियादारी है, like है, इसमें love नहीं है, let me go away. No, it's not that way. But we have to be careful in terms of, you know, let's not expect any moment. We also expect, it's not that we are pure, right? We also expect if I give love or if I give somebody something, you know, I will get in return someday. And unfortunately, what happens is as we grow older in our life, the give and take substantially increases. It's given, you know, we take it as natural कि मैंने कुछ इसको support किया तो कल ये मुझे support करेगा. But if you look at a very small, tiny child of 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, it just laughs and gives away. It doesn't expect anything in return. That's why the innocence, the purity is very high at that stage. And that's why if you see all the divine masters who have reached that, you know, climax of enlightenment, they actually were behaving like a child. They were not childish, but they were like a child to the divine, you know, mother, or the purity, the innocence was so much. They just gave. They never expected anything in return. They never said कि इसको मैं दूंगा तो कल परसों देगा नहीं देगा. Nothing. I felt like giving, I gave. You know, there is a very interesting episode within Swami's life. I think I don't remember the entire context, but there was an episode where Swami was going out of the way to support, you know, certain people who were actually criticizing him. And this is very old, 60s, 70s time. And one of the VIPs, you know, or the elders around, you know, went and told Swami that, Swami, you know, if somebody is harming you, criticizes you, you go on giving that person, as you know, chhod ke sab, everything you have given it to him, and you show so much love and affection despite he is kind of harmful. So Swami just stopped him and said, see, you see that way, but my love doesn't understand, you know, ifs and buts in this. My love understands just to give. You may say me that, you know, is harmful, but my love doesn't know what is harm. It just likes to give. It doesn't know what harm is. It doesn't know what negativity. It doesn't know what all the dualities of life is. It just knows how to give. That's about it. And that's a purest form of love. Can we give that love to our enemies, so-called enemies? If we are able to, then, you know, then we are reaching that level.
Actually, unconditional or this pure love, no? हम जब बोलते हैं, you know, love God. Actually, God is not a separate entity. And love is such a beautiful feeling that, you know, it pervades everything. So you should really, as Kabir also said, and Ashu said, and you said, you should be able to see it in everyone regardless. No good, no bad. Just you should be able to see it in their heart, and you should be able to feel it for them. And that is what Bhagwan did, and that is what Bhagwan taught us. And if ever he was a little, you know, he showed his not liking something, it was only to teach that person a lesson. And it was out of extreme love for that person, you know, where the mother had to do this also and that also. So it's not, when we say love God, God is not a separate entity. He lives, he's the entire consciousness. And so what Bhagwan is asking us to do is to expand, basically, you know, to move from me, mine, this, that only, to, you know, be generally more loving, as you said.
True, but I mean, that's the highest stage which we need to reach. While we know intellectually what you exactly said, we know intellectually that, you know, there is divinity in everyone and love implicitly, but that is a stage we need to reach. So anyway, that's one of our journey in this topic. But just, you know, since we are almost 45 minutes into the session, we'll quickly move to the next part. In fact, more or less we have covered the next part, so I'll not get into further deeper, you know, introspection on it. But the next question is, what is love? And you know, love, as in fact, if I define what Swami says, what is true love? You know, true love is pure pure unselfish love towards all living beings, which is what we discussed right now, considered as embodiments of divine with no expectation of reward, is true love. Love does not seek anything in return. Love knows only to give, not to receive. Such love is free from fear. Okay, so Swami has defined it, exactly I'm quoting, what is true love? Once again I read, pure unselfish love towards all living beings considered as embodiments of the divine with no expectations of reward is true love. Love does not seek anything in return. Love knows only to give, not to receive, such love is free from fear. So Swami has actually defined what is true love very clearly, which is what we just discussed over the last few minutes. And there is a nice analogy of kite. I don't know how many of us know this. In case of kite, when all of us, as January comes, most of us know in Sankranti, a lot of people do kite flying. Kite is something where there are three aspects to it. One is the kite itself, one is the thread which ties the kite, and the person who is holding the thread, to fly the kite. So the kite flyer, the thread, and the kite. There are three aspects to it. The kite is what we are, we individuals. The kite flyer is God. And the thread which connects us to the God is love. So the farther the kite is flying high into the sky, there is a tendency of getting it cut by somebody else. You seeing the difference? The farther we are from the kite, so suppose I am the kite, I'm flying high into the sky, and here is a kite flyer. The farther I go from him, there is a love bondage which is there with that, the source, the thread which is there. But farther I fly, there is a likelihood of me getting cut from my source. हम लोग खेलते हैं ना, जब we try to cut each other's kites, if you remember the childhood times. So it's important for us that the more and more and more closer we are to the source, to the kite flyer, the closer the bondage will be and less likelihood of we being getting cut away from the source. So what is happening, in other words, is the farther I am trying to seek my flight into the world, thinking that I'm going to soar high, soar high, soar high, there is a risk of me getting completely cut off from a source. And why that happens, when somebody cuts my kite, basically somebody, in the sense, the world is cutting the kite and giving me the distraction to the outside world. And there are chances I may get lost into the sea of the world, or distractions or attractions, whatever we call it.
Only thing else on the lighter side, Siddharth, is that our kite flyer is really amazing and he loves the kite. So even if we get cut off, he'll come and find the kite and he'll take care. But yeah, point well taken.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, the entire objective is, can we be more closer to the kite flyer? The kite, see, as an individual, like a kite, I would like to fly into the sky. Okay, that's my nature. मुझे उड़ना है as a kite. But problem क्या हो रहा है, वो उड़ने से अगर मेरा control, which I'm far away from my kite flyer, मैं ज़्यादा जिंदगी में उड़ना चाहता हूँ, the more and more I'm going outside to fly, there is a tendency that I may get cut off from a source because of the so-called likes of the world, distractions of the world, attractions of the world. And then क्या होता है, वो kite चले जाता है. It just soars into somewhere and finally gets stuck in a tree. Unless, as Ashutosh said, if our bonding is very, very strong with him, with the kite flyer, there is a tendency that
I take him with me in my heart, like Ashu said.
So important is, yes, we take him in our heart. The journey is now we need to be in his heart. As so Ashutosh said, he will come in search for us. Swami again says, you may leave me and go, but I will never leave you. That stage is very, very beautiful, and which is where we need to reach. Okay. So that's why the entire piece is the like and love. What happens is we are in search in the outside world, in thinking that वहां पर मुझे मिलेगा, यहाँ पर मुझे मिलेगा, यहाँ पर मुझे मिलेगा, but end of the day we are actually going away from the source. The true love which is there, we are going away from the source in search of love outside, which is actually a like, not love. And that's why we come back disappointed. You're seeing the difference of the analogy, the way kite flies. Okay. Yeah. And that's why, love is, if you have to define in simplest terms, love is an enormous force to bring a seeker back to its source. Love can happen between two entities, two people, two entities, the seeker and the sought. Okay, for love to happen, there has to be two people. It can't be an individual. It can't be Advaita. And that's why Swami says, or the God says, that I have to, multiply myself. I have to I'm not getting the exact word, but I have to multiply myself into many so that I can love. I separated myself from myself to love myself. There has to be two entities, the seeker and the sought. The journey is the seeker has to come back to the sought and become one with it. And that is the true love, what we are looking at. And that's why the analogy of the kite, the thread and the kite flyer. The more closer we are, and eventually what happens, जैसे नजदीक आते जाएंगे, obviously the kite flyer has done his job. He takes the kite, puts in his bag and goes home. And the kite always remains with the kite flyer till the next episode comes in the kite flying sequence. So either we go so high into the world or we go into the bag of the kite flyer or God himself.
If I take the liberty so that to extend that analogy and bring it a little more complications, right? So the kite flyer ही भेजता है ना kite को, ऐसा नहीं कि वो खुद kite अपने मर्जी से जाती है. So the kite flyer sends, but I think what is important is कि अगर once the kite soars high in the world also, it has to, so that is on the kite to make sure that it doesn't get cut, to navigate all the challenges. बाकी सब आएंगे काटने वाटने, but while we are up, ऐसा नहीं कि we can always be close to the kite flyer. The kite flyer only sends us out, probably to test or whatever, right? But while we are up, also we want to make sure that we are navigating in a very intelligent manner and loving manner, जो भी है, and we ultimately come back. So that slight variation I wanted to add to this analogy.
No, very true. And
The
that's why
door has to be very strong.
Sorry, we missed you.
So the door has to be very strong. So the connection remains.
Exactly. And that door is the thread of love.
Yeah.
So again, the seeker and the sought, there are two people. Okay. And the love is the actual bond which flows between the two people. Okay. This is very simple to understand, no complications. Okay. आगे का अभी देखेंगे, how that love and the thread of love, kind of breaks, and कहाँ पर हम लोग घूम जाते हैं and how do we come back home. That's the entire journey that we will cover. Next area or next section, this is something which let's discuss about this before we end today's session, before we go to the next session. Question is, why are we always in search of love? Why
our basic form, our true self is pure love.
Yeah.
And it's only that we have gone away from it because we have added so many things in between. So, and because we are not looking internal, we keep on looking external. That's why we are seeking love. We are seeking attention. Attention, the feeling of being wanted, the biggest human feeling, is because we have put a lot of barriers between ourself itself, between us to ourselves. And so we don't know that we are already there. We are already pure form of love, but because we have put hatred, jealousy, anger, greed, desires, so we are trying to find love outside. But our true form is love, our true form is power. And that is why we are also trying to always gain power and control. Because those are our basic natures, core natures. We are trying to connect to that again, but in the wrong way.
I think very interesting point you made, and very, very, very important point you made is, see, our true nature is love, right? So basically we want to remain in that state of pure love because that's our real nature. We are not today, and that's why we are seeking it. The problem is we're seeking it outside, not within. Am I right in what you exactly said?
I just want to say one thing, after a lot of serious experiences and tough times, one will realize that he loves no one. And it is out of sheer experience, I'm telling you that, not out of understanding. Not out of understanding. It is out of, because of Baba's experience and blessing, one will realize that he loves no one, not even his parents. Not even his parents. It's a hard hitting thing, and it's a very surprising thing. but it is out of sheer experience one will realize, I'm telling you, that we don't love anybody except ourselves. वो अब तक लव रियलाइज नहीं किए, जो हम लोग सब बोल रहे हैं लव लाइक ये वो सब ये दुनिया का ही है, वो रियल लव नहीं है.
Actually, you brought a very interesting point again, which is the next point which I was planning to speak on, but you brought it up front. See, what we seek in the world in the form so-called love is security. As you said, we don't love our parents. We find security in them. There is a condition there. Just give a deep thought to this. It's a hard-hitting thought. We love our parents because we find security. We love our spouse because we find security.
This whole discussion is very hard hitting. Realizing that it is not that we have not read this by Baba before, but just hearing it being said is very hard hitting.
No, it is. And that's why this topic, we began with that it's all encompassing. And if we get this right today, we have got everything in place. We don't need anything else if we get this right. But that is precisely, so that's why it's good. We are getting into deeper, we're asking hard questions. We're getting into, hard hitting statement. It's important to get the context right. Because अगर ये foundation तैयार हो गया, that's why I'm consciously going little slow. एक बार एक foundation हमारा तैयार हो जाएगा, तो then the next level is very clear for us. It's very easy for us to understand. Because what are we dealing here is loving God ultimately. We're inching towards that. And keep aside Swami for some time, because it's easy for us to kind of look at Swami as a human being and love him. But keep that aside for some time to avoid confusion of physical, non-physical. But God per se is an abstract topic. So here we are trying to deal with something where we are saying that love an abstract entity. See, we can love, as of now, all of us are at a gross level. We can love a person whom we can speak to, understand, उससे बात कर सकते हैं, खाना खा सकते हैं, travel कर सकते हैं. But यहाँ पर you are saying the love divinity, which is not able to, I'm not able to see him. I'm not able to feel him. Probably in sometimes I feel him, not every time I feel him. So an abstract topic or abstract entity को प्यार करना is not easy. And that's why I'm trying to get into the foundation. Maybe थोड़ा खुदेर भी रहे हम लोग to be trying to dig it up to see where are we today. And that's why entire concept of love that we have in our minds is practically just a security. Pick up all our relationship. We want friends for our security. We want jobs for our security. We want parents for our security. When we search a wife or a husband as a spouse, we are looking for security. You're not looking for love. We call it love. That's our definition. But if you go very deep into it, everywhere we are looking at security. Isn't it? एक इंसान मर भी जाता है, in our family, if anybody, not somebody else, within our four walls, अंदर का घर का आदमी अगर expire भी हो जाता है, do we really cry for that individual? We cry for ourselves. Isn't it? We see अगर ये चला गया मेरा क्या होगा? Look at those. That's a born out of insecurity. This man has gone. What will happen to me? He was taking so much care of me. What will happen to me? He used to do all these things for me. What will happen to me? But fact of the matter is the soul is liberated from the body and the bondage. So it should be actually a celebration. That for the soul has departed from all this ephemeral world, which is all actually useless in that sense. So we should have a celebration or we should have a sorrow. Sorrow is because of our own selfish level that मेरा क्या होगा ये अगर चले गया तो. Isn't it? Go deeper into it. It will not be very easy for us to absorb. But today's homework could be that we go back and ask ourselves, all those people whom I love in the world, so-called love, do I really love them? Or I'm happy to get that security. And ये क्यों हो रहा है? Again, the analogy of kite. हम लोग बहुत दूर जाएंगे तो हवा में डोलेंगे भी. The more closer you are to the source, to the kite flyer, there will be more stability. So farther we soar, imagining that I will soar high into the sky, there is so much of instability and wobbliness that I'm looking for some stability, somewhere security, यहाँ पर मैं शायद, I'll be getting a comfort. So that's why all the time we are seeking in outside world, so-called security, a comfort, some, somewhere where I can lean on to, isn't it? So
So,
that's all. Bolo, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So, are you saying that unconditional love, pure love, cannot be found at all in the world? Are you saying that koi bhi nahi hai, kidhar bhi nahi hai, who is capable of that kind of love?
I would suggest go back to your own life, all of us, not only you, but all of us. Have you really found an instance of unconditional pure love under any circumstances? Any one person who has done that with us, or we have done with anybody? Swami says life is a book, right? Forget about all the scriptures and shastras and everything else. Our life is our own Bible, our own Bhagavad Gita. Look at our own respective life. कोई भी पन्ना ऐसा है जहां पर आप पाओगे कि somebody you found who just loves you implicitly, come what may, ऐसा कोई बंदा है? Or otherwise, you as an individual have implicitly loved anybody and everybody, come what may, it doesn't matter.
Anybody or everybody?
Anybody or everybody. कोई एक इंसान भी अगर मिल गया, then you are आप तो पूजनीय हो जाओगे, then you are a divine incarnate.
No, but Siddharth, I have a query there. Even as Baba's love for us, like somebody also previously mentioned, if we are doing something wrong, Baba used to point it out to us. He said, and we all know it is a part of his motherly love for us. It is his duty, like it is a duty of every mother. So that mother does scold the child, does make the child swallow bitter pills. Does that mean that that child that is conditional love, or that is unconditional love, or sometimes you do have to look like it is not unconditional, right? How do you qualify that then?
Yeah,
See, mother.
Sorry, I also wanted to add before you say, there are times it could be friends, parents, it could be a spouse, children. You do tell them something, okay? It could be either, for their better, or, just, communication helps to understand or whatever. But that does not mean, just because you said something does not mean that you don't love them. It just means that maybe you love them so much that you think it's okay to even talk to them about it. If you didn't, you'd probably
It's not about telling.
No, the way I
You
look
want
at it
them
is
to conform to something.
no,
There's
you
again
don't want that. No, you are just explaining your point of view. You don't want them to conform. You are just explaining your point of view. I'm not saying here that you want them to be a certain way. Okay? Because in society, there is always interaction. See, even Bhagwan would tell what he wanted. Okay? And he would want in his love for the students that it be like that. But here I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking for better understanding and communication without the expectation that the person should agree with you and do what you're saying. You explain your point of view.
Exactly. That's what even I wanted to know. How does, that is okay, right?
See, a mother scolding a child to improve. Okay, it's not out of fear or insecurity. Okay, now if you take the example of Swami and students, I don't think so. He's going to get benefit by we getting corrected. He many times he said, my mission will go on despite you people are there, not irrespective. Despite aap log ho to bhi, because of you also, and despite you being there also, my mission will go on. So by you getting corrected, it's for your own benefit, not for my benefit. Very many times he has told us. So when somebody wants to correct us for our own good with his zero iota of his personal benefit, that is a remnant of pure love. But a father or a mother trying to conform a child based on his likes and dislikes, then it is tremendously, there is an involvement of selfishness, because वो मेरे जैसे होना चाहिए. Can my child, fulfill my dream which I couldn't? There is a big iota of selfishness in that. Okay, but just correcting for the good of the person without any self-interest involved, it is a quality of selflessness. Yeah, Kabir.
I'll just add one more thing. Supposing मैं बोलूं नहीं सब ठीक है, it actually borders on apathy and indifference. नहीं सब ठीक है, कुछ भी हो, that means you don't even care enough about that person to tell them ki bhai, this is how it's okay to state your viewpoint without expecting the other person to be like you. It's okay to love the difference. It's okay to understand that people are different. Just saying what you feel does not mean you don't love them or you love them less, or you are putting conditions to your love or having an expectation also.
I agree with what you're saying, because I also have that query. If like there are nowadays, we even when talking about the same example of mothering, nowadays there is a concept that let the child do whatever they want. So we find children throwing strange tantrums, behaving very selfishly. The parents are saying, that's fine, I accept my child as it is. That is bad behavior. That is not correct. So I feel that as parents, it is our duty. If the child is going astray, you have to correct that child. And so also for the society. Like whoever is in contact with me, I have a few best friends. Like I had an ex-colleague. We were very close. I was like a daughter to him. I knew at many times that sir had a drinking issue. He used to shiver in office. And he passed away quite unexpectedly. And ever since that day, I have lived with the guilt that even I should have tried to tell him, sir, don't do this, sir, or try to at least hold him back a couple of times. Because in the end, everybody knew that we were very close to each other. He used to call me Pori, which means daughter. So that is also there. No, does that make my love selfish or conditional? I'm wondering. When I say that, probably you should try to tell children that this is the rules of good conduct. Try your best to stick to them. Not doing it, I feel, is lack of love.
Yeah, if you see someone doing something which is not okay, which which could not be good for them. Maybe they are getting into alcoholism, they're getting into drugs, you're aware of it. Now, out of love, you might go and tell, say, their parents, or you might try to stop them. But that is because you love them so much, and it's not that you're expecting anything from them, but you just don't want them to go down that path. If I was just to say, nah, it's okay, nah, सब ठीक है, तो ऐसे तो नहीं होता है ना.
Can I
Shravani
say
wants to
something?
say something. Yes, please.
Yeah, as far as I am concerned, as a mother, I have gone into it very deeply because I do keep correcting my children. Even now, when they're married, I try to correct them. Why? Deep down, I'm selfish. It hurts me. It hurts me to see them get hurt. If my child is supposed doing something wrong and she gets the repercussions for that, okay, I lose my sleep. So indirectly, I am worried about myself. I get
But
hurt.
what if it wasn't your child? If you saw,
Then I won't
supposing
get
it was
so
my
hurt.
friend's, no, supposing it
Then
was
I
my
won't
friend's
interfere.
child. No, supposing
then
it was
I'm
my
not there.
friend's child, then
That's the best.
will I not
That's
tell
good.
them that don't do drugs? Will I not
Good.
go to the mother?
Yes.
I
That
will,
you
right?
should.
Yes,
That is
exactly.
beautiful. That is
Yeah.
beautiful. But a
You will
mother's
not
love
say,
I'm talking.
yeah,
No,
and
we are
not
talking
just
about.
not
we were
just a
talking
mother.
about-
I'm talking in relationships. You
That's
will,
beautiful.
you will say, and it requires a deep amount of love to actually go up, be honest, and tell the truth. Okay.
I was
That's what
talking
I
about
believe.
mother's love.
Yeah, no, not necessarily mothers. It's very
Because you
easy.
said it's unselfish. That's why I said no. Mother is also selfish to some extent. I wanted to just say that. Of course, for
Huh.
others, if we guide, then that's the best, of course.
I mean, I think it requires tremendous amount of love to speak up at certain times when it is easy to just keep quiet or look the other way,
Correct. Because that speaking up at that correct time is very difficult. It many times makes people misunderstand your love. You get into
Yeah.
many times you may have said it very lovingly, you may have not even meant anything, but we live in a world which does not understand love and behavior the way we do. So maybe you get misinterpreted there also.
Yeah, it invites misunderstandings. People may not like you. It might invite mistrust, but you're willing to take that chance. The person might even end up disliking you for that, but you're willing to do it. You are not bothered that अरे मेरे बारे में क्या सोचेंगे, मैंने ऐसा बोला तो,
Okay, let's conclude. All the points are valid. I think good discussion, because it's important that we do introspection on our own fundamentals and bring out those questions which are there. See, important point here is yes, if you feel somebody is doing wrong and you speak it out without your selfish interest, it's a good thing to do. The test of pure love will come when the other person continues to shout back and say that, who are you to tell me? You don't get affected whatsoever despite the other person reacts negatively to you. Moment he reacts negatively कि तुम कौन हो मुझे बोलने के लिए कि I should drink or not drink, and then we go back home with dejected कि कैसा आदमी इतना बोलने के बाद भी ऐसा हुआ, then you're seeing there's a iota of expectation कि at least he'll respect me. You're seeing the difference. We remain unruffled if somebody takes it positively or not positively, but it is good for him and I've spoken to him about it. That remains, that's the actual test of true love. I don't expect anything from him. कल वो चिल्लाए नहीं चिल्लाए मेरे पास, because I'm just extending that entire sequence of events. I saw somebody, I told him it is not good for him. Very good act, appreciate. After that, the other person may not understand because all of us are not same. The other person may even say, who are you to tell me? And despite that, then we don't get into arguments with that person. We remain fine. We just felt this is good for you. You remain unruffled, you go back. Next time again you happen to do it, which is good for the other person, irrespective of any expectations whatsoever. मुझे सामने से चिल्ला भी सकता है, सामने से abuse भी कर सकता है, सामने से प्यार भी कर सकता है, irrespective of that situation. I remain absolutely truthful and pure without any expectations. It's a very high level.
Yeah, you might have a momentary imbalance. Okay, we are still human, but you just get your equilibrium back. See, at that point, you might have, if the person completely, but you get back your equilibrium and your feelings don't change for that person. Agreed. Because you said it out of pure love,
No, exactly. So what to take your point, how fast you get back to your equilibrium decides how far more spiritually matured we are. Yeah. If it takes long time, a day or 2 days, 3 days, and I keep on thinking about it, and then after a few days I go back and maintain my equilibrium, I'm still affected by it, right?
Excellent. Great conclusion. Agreed. So what we understand, great conclusion. Agreed. Very beautifully said. So you do what you think is right, your duty out of love. The repercussions also you must be able to bear with love. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And that's why Swami's favorite and most famous saying is, duty with love is desirable, duty without love is deplorable, and love without duty is divine. Is a famous saying of Swami. Love without duty is divine. Because I love everybody equally, I love all, like what Swami defined as a true love, I don't see any difference. I just spoke my heart out. I don't even have any worries about आगे का अगर बहुत it hurts a person. Swami always says you cannot always oblige but speak obligingly. So we have to be very careful in the worldly equation. But at the same time, I have to accept everything with love, with equilibrium. And if I'm living in that state of equilibrium, then I'm really, actually practicing pure love. It doesn't affect me at all. The same is the case with Swami and students. He keeps guiding us, right? He doesn't get affected. Ki yaar, wo aisa kyun kiya, wo aisa kiya, that boy wasted food, he spoke. He doesn't get into that state. And many times again, all of us would have seen and you would have read also about Swami, that many times he just acts angry. I have my own personal experience on this, but it's past the time, so I will maybe speak it out next time. But Swami just acts angry just to correct ourselves. He's least affected by it. He's not disturbed. So what we say is equilibrium incarnate, if I may use the word. Is that state of complete acceptance he is.
Right. And the only thing again I'll say is to conclude is that, because we're out of time, is this whole discussion, I think very, very nice, stimulating discussion started because we were talking about, do we have examples of pure selfless love in our lives? Have we done that? And it's very rare to find. I think that's a very good point. And I think we will not find an answer, in very simple terms. I think we have to put in some more thought to it, which you mentioned is a good exercise for us to do and go back. And I think the discussion is a little complicated. I think we were mixing things at 2 points. One is about the motive of correcting. The second is getting impacted by it. And if you try and mix those things, I think the discussion can get overlapping. So the motive is one thing. Where it comes from, is it selfless? And then getting impacted by it is something else, because that depends on how much growth we have as a person to, कि हम उससे impact हुए नहीं हुए, किस तरह से जा रहा है. So, but yes, it's a very stimulating thought, which I think we should hold on to and continue talking about next time. Because I think Usha Auntie's point also was right, keep selfish for a mother also, that I will get hurt. But there can be other thing, ki, if the kid, does something, it is my responsibility just to tell. And I think we discussed this previously, when Lord Krishna couldn't change the Kauravas. I think who are we to, as parents or as whatever friends to change? So I think not expecting the result to happen is important, and we getting hurt or not hurt is a separate thing by it, which I think we should keep it like that. But yeah, I think we're out of time. But if there's any other sort of burning thoughts or questions, I think we can take a couple of those. But I wanted to just make sure we keep track of time as well.
Before we conclude, just a couple of homework that we can do. And because it will be important, we'll take it up, whatever our introspection points are in the next session, because next session will go very deep into this topic. And the point here is basically the introspection that we need to do. Okay, manthan jo bolte, chintan ya manthan, or whatever word we want to use, but introspection about, is there a true love in the world? Number one. Number two is, where can we find the true love? Okay, all of us, we have discussed length and breadth today. Answer is, God will give us true love intellectually. But we need to pull out from our own life. Do we really believe in those? Or is there, a real love in the world? Okay, before we go into the, God's true love, because it's a path. Intellectually, we may know. But if we really firmly believe, if you don't believe, it's fine. I may say, I don't know. I've never seen God. It's an abstract entity. For me, this is what love is. So be it. But that introspection we'll have to do. And another point is, we can make a list for ourselves. What is permanent in this world and what is temporary in this world? Okay, these two is a homework. Is there a true love and where can I find? Number one. Number two is, what are the permanent things in our life, in our world, in our life, and what are the temporary things in our life? Because next session will build on this answers that we will get. So introspection is something that we need to do on these two areas. That's all from myself.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. And I think just wanted to wish everybody happy Christmas and New Year, because we'll now meet in 2022. So good wishes. And then I think it's a good thought if you can start the new year with this kind of introspection. I think nothing better than that. So thanks for leaving us with those thoughts. We'll meet next year.
We meet next year. You've got one full year to think about.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, then, if there's nothing else, we can probably conclude with Samastaloka. All right. Samastaloka Sukhino bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Right, Sai Ram everyone.
Sai Ram.